Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Friday's episode of Trending, brought to you by Ickonic Coffee. Head over to shop.ickonic.com and use the code TRENDING for 10% off. Hope you're all enjoying the sunshine. It looks very sunny and bright where you are, Rich. How are you, mate?
Well, I'm indoors with the lights on. These aren't natural. But it
Could let
is
me have
so
that
hot
one.
here. It's ridiculous. It's
It is.
ridiculous. It
At
really
least you've
is.
got
Yeah.
the sea to
It's
jump
lovely.
into, though, mate.
I can't swim that well, mate. I'd end up in Russia.
Good effort. Well, you got a few wind turbines off your area to grab onto if you get in trouble.
That's true. Yeah.
Right, we're going to start by talking about MAGA, which we seem to talk about a lot because there's always a lot to talk about. So finally, mate, there's some chinks in the armour when it comes to the unwavering, undying support for Donald Trump. He's finally gone too far. So I'm, of course, referring to this Epstein client list that definitely doesn't exist, in which case, why is Ghislaine Maxwell still in prison? Explain that. If the list doesn't exist, why for years has it been talked about? Why is there names? Why has there been so much political unrest? Why has there been so many conversations about something that doesn't exist? Because if it didn't exist, they'd have said that years ago, because it would have nullified all of this conversation. Instead, they've just waited and got the king in charge, and then they've lied to you. Unfortunately, people are not all buying it. Some are. Alex Jones still very much is buying it. Apparently, Trump's blackmailing the deep state with the list. Wow. Sorry, Alex. You've undone all the good work you did over the years, mate, just with that comment alone.
Yeah.
Anyway, MAGA devotees are in uproar, with some even calling for the burning of their iconic red caps, as discontent simmers over the Epstein files, shaking the core of Donald Trump's support base. The Justice Department's recent statement said that Jeffrey Epstein had no client list, didn't at all, and the halting of any further public discourse has sparked outrage, particularly after Attorney General Pam Bondi earlier hints on Fox News that this raised expectations among conservative circles and conspiracy theorists. No, it didn't. It raised suspicions because it's true. It's very true. Epstein clearly had a client list. Very many rich and famous and powerful and influential people were on his jet. They were on his island. They were at his ranches. Some of whom have talked about this over the years, about the fact there were cameras in every room. There was microphones in every room. He was in a relationship and worked in tandem with Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father, Robert Maxwell, was a Mossad agent and was killed by Mossad in the end. I urge you to read the book By the Way of Deception, which was written by a former Mossad agent, which spoke and detailed how they killed Robert Maxwell. Well, these organisations, like Mossad and other intelligence services, love legacies. So if your dad or your mum was involved, there's a high chance that the children will be invited to be involved as well. So Ghislaine Maxwell's involvement was clear. Epstein was clearly working on behalf of a foreign government, a government in the Middle East, an agency in the Middle East, which no one seems to know which one, though. Well, I can tell you which one. I've just literally named them. And he was clearly running a blackmailing operation to try and get people to be in compromised positions so that then they would do whatever they are told. You know, you're always asked the question, is everyone in politics, is everyone in Hollywood, is everyone in these things corrupt and up to no good because they're just not very good people? Well, no. Some of them will literally been compromised. Some of them will be being blackmailed. Some of them will have done something or been manipulated into a situation, or in some cases drugged and put into a situation where they then have a video, they have tapes and so on, and then they're blackmailed. They're owned then. That's why so many of them, if not the vast majority of them, follow the cult's agenda without question, even when public opinion may completely suggest they should go in the other direction. So, and I would strongly suggest that that's exactly what is happening to Donald Trump, because he was friends with Epstein for a long period of time. He will be on those flight logs. He will be involved in that list. You know, the pretend battle he's having with Musk. Musk alluded to that. Well, he didn't allude to that, actually. He said that outright, that the reason he's not releasing the files is because his name's on them. And then just a few weeks after he does that, there apparently is no list, which is, complete sham. And it's gaslighting in it, mate, of the highest order, Rich. It's telling you something that you know isn't true, but there'll be this split now where some of the people will respond how these guys have responded, with anger, with fury, and others will still hold the line because they can't admit they've been duped. It's gaslighting of the highest order, isn't it?
It really is. And I also think they realised that Trump had played his cards now and he's done. There is a kind of symbolic alchemical thing to this, whether it's true or not. I'll just mention it. Now, what happens with the scapegoat, which I think Donald Trump is, and he's put pictures out of him being the scapegoat, having the red tie. When the scapegoat is accepted as an atonement for Israel's sins, the red turns white. Now, Donald Trump started to wear a white hat a lot more lately.
Yes,
I wouldn't be surprised if the Musk's party is white hat as well. Maybe wrong. But I think the burning of the red there maybe signifies the atonement of his job being done, and then let's move on. And as you said, many of them are going to stick with Trump, but most of them are rightly disenfranchised with this nonsense, as they should have been from the start. But there you go. Some people get there late. They'll switch over to Elon Musk's new party, which is quite obviously a fake fallout and a place to go. It's out the frying pan into the fire. The technocratic nonsense still moves on, and Trump's done his bit for now, so he's got his Nobel Peace Prize for bombing everywhere and killing people. So he'll be off and doing that, and if he doesn't get arrested. But again, of course, there's a list. I mean, Gillette Bryant says that she was never trafficked to anyone. I mean, that's in the wider region. I do think these women were being used amongst his closest allies, including Trump as well, and many others, especially on those islands. Or he also mentioned Steve Bannon is on the list as well, Musk did. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. Musk is playing his role in this. It's moving over. So remember that the scapegoat was always going to be the goat. Donald Trump was supposed to play this role. That atonement for Israel's sins is being placed. He represents as an Edomite, and now they're moving on to the next stage. But the agenda will continue on. But of course, there's a list of people, because who's Ghislaine Maxwell trafficking people too, and obviously in those islands they were using these people, I think, for transhumanist means and an agenda. But there's much more going on here that is way beyond this list.
There definitely is, and if you want absolute confirmation of who owns Trump, and absolute confirmation that there is a list and it will implicate a fair few names that they don't want out, watch Israeli spokesperson Ben Shapiro in his response on Daily Wire to this list. Let's have a listen.
Democrats running the FBI and the DOJ would have had a pretty large incentive, would they not, to have dumped an Epstein file on, say, Donald J. Trump? Would they not? I mean, we know for a fact that in 2016, the intelligence community coordinated to set up an entire op surrounding Donald Trump's supposed collusion with Russia. Do you think that under the auspices of Joseph R. Biden and the rest of the Biden administration, if they had one single iota of evidence, for example, Jeffrey Epstein had been trafficking underage girls to Donald Trump, that wouldn't have been on the front page of every single newspaper in the world the next day, like the day after Joe Biden was elected? Are we really to believe that? Seriously? It strains credulity.
Anyone that still watches Daily Wire now, it's just a final admission that you're just watching Israeli propaganda. But if he's telling you to trust the Department of Justice on this, and that, just go with it. Go with it. It's the same guy that said, I don't really care who killed JFK. I don't really care who did 9/11 at this stage. Because all of those answers are going to point in one direction, Benjamin. And it's the direction that you don't want people to look. Anyway, moving on. Rich, where are we going now, mate?
We're sticking with the similar story, but Prince Andrew now is probably sweating. Not sweating his release of pheromones. So that's good. he's off the hook, but obviously he can sweat. Anyway, Prince Andrew free to travel abroad as FBI ends probe into Royal's Jeffrey Epstein links. Prince Andrew can finally end his self-imposed, I'm not going abroad because I may do something illegal, self-imposed travel ban after a leaked memo revealed that FBI is closing its investigation into the Royals' Jeffrey Epstein links. The whole thing is being closed. Nice. So he's off the hook now, but he was anyway, wasn't he? Of course they're involved. I mean, Jimmy Savile was deeply involved with the British Royals. There's they've got the sigil of Saturn on their Balmoral cross, Baal, morals. It's obviously there is an occult agenda to the British Royals. It doesn't mean they're all involved, but he clearly was involved with Epstein at a very, very deep level. But now he's decided he can go abroad now, although he could anyway, but he was too scared to. So the Duke The disgraced Duke of York, 65, has left the UK once in the last 6 years over fears of arrest, civil lawsuits, or being subpoenaed. Now it appears as though the scandal scarred Prince, who has been kept at arm's length from the royal fold. Imagine that. Imagine being so bad that your dad doesn't want anything to do with you, but he hung around with Jimmy Savile for years. Is able to venture. Oh, sorry, his brother. Of course, it was his brother as well. Well, his dad. Was his dad as well?
His dad's not here anymore.
Well, no, it's not. Well, apparently not. Anyway, we don't know what sort of technology
they've got.
Was
it,
it didn't look like it in the end. Is able to venture out the UK within fear. Yeah, so your brother's hanging around with Jimmy Savile, but he doesn't want to hang out with you because you were with Epstein. There's a hierarchy to perverts. There's a hierarchy to perverts.
There is,
okay,
and
this is where we are.
This is a really simple question, though, as well. Is if you lived in a street, forget these guys are royals. You lived in a street. One brother was best mates with Britain's most notorious paedophile and sex trafficker, and the other brother was best mates with America's most notorious paedophile and sex trafficker. I think you'd ask a few questions of. I'm not sure you'd let the kids go round for a sleepover, would you? You'd ask some questions of the family. You'd start to go, what on earth is going on here?
That ain't the place to go. That's that spooky house at the end of the street that no one talks about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Apart from Ben Shapiro.
And also to point out, self-exiled. Yeah, exiled in $1 million, £1 million mansion, paid for by the taxpayer, paid for by the royals that are paid for by the taxpayer. He's not been sat slumming it in Hackney in a top floor apartment with a toilet in the kitchen, has he? I mean, come on.
No,
it's ridiculous. And, I love the concept as well that I've done something wrong and I could get arrested, so I'm just going to not leave my house and they can't come in here. Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, if your house is a palace, then
that would solve the prison crisis, to be fair.
Well, it would do, yeah. I mean, obviously, we need to mention Virginia Giuffre, who passed away a few months back in very, very odd circumstances. She was the one who started this, I believe, going, and it was Prince Andrew that was the one who was really caught up with it. This is massive, the Epstein thing. This leads into transhumanism, leads into what's happening to missing children all over the world, arms dealers, drugs dealers, all sorts, presidents of prime ministers of Israel, also, and this whole messianic nonsense as well. So this is the one that I think we need to keep knocking at, because this is the weakest part of their whole entire agenda, because it's so obvious and people have had enough and want to know the truth.
I agree. And also I think what's key to point out is that all the things that have come out in recent years, I mean, I'm very surprised with this whole Epstein list thing and what's happened, that they've not come out with anything. They've said there's no list. I didn't think they'd go quite that far. I thought they'd do what they did over here with Jimmy Savile, which is chuck a few like D-list celebrities that aren't really in the public eye anymore, just to kind of chuck some crumbs to the masses that, we are doing our job. We have exposed a few people like they did here. They started conversations about a few former MPs, your Leon Brittons, your Lord McAlpines and so on, Ted Heaths, all people that were, not there anymore or not in the public eye anymore. Anyway, the fact they've come out and said there's no list anymore just shows how confident and how arrogant they are about this now. But the point I'm trying to make is, everything's about retrospective action. It's about what happened in the past. This stuff still happens today. People
Absolutely.
You see in parliamentary positions, people you see in the House of Representatives in America, people you see in large corporations, people that you see on the telly, people that you see in positions of influence and power in the film world, in the music world. There'll be people up to this stuff still right now. There'll be a modern day Jeffrey Epstein, a modern day Jimmy Savile right now. I have no doubt of that. So by constantly getting you to look at the past but not look at the future and not look at the present, they're trying to create this illusion that this doesn't still go on today. It was a few weirdos back in the 80s and 90s. No. This isn't isolated to that. This still goes on today, and it's very, very important to highlight and continue to call it out and continue to try and shine a light on the fact these things still go on and trying to expose them. Because, there's a reason this sort of stuff goes on, and you have to get deeper into the more esoteric stuff to understand it. But this isn't new and this isn't old. This is very much something that's gone right throughout the ages in this cult's agenda.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, we're going to talk about immigration here in the UK, which again seems to be a topic that we're talking about a lot. But the reason we're bringing it up today is because there's a brand new deal that's going to solve the issue, Rich. 1 in, 1 out policy, like once it goes past midnight at a nightclub. But what does one in, one out do? Doesn't change the number of people in the club, does it?
It doesn't. No, it
Doesn't,
really
does
doesn't.
it?
It's absurd. No.
It doesn't make any sense, mate. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, especially when, one in, one out, when there's already hundreds of thousands of people here illegally, undocumented, and there's tens of thousands coming every year. And as we've seen in recent weeks where the weather's been calm and it's been really nice here in the UK, the seas are calm and the boats have been coming and coming and coming and coming. Quite literally yesterday when this announcement was being made between Macron and Starmer, thousands across the channel. It's like I did an interview yesterday on a podcast and I was asked about this issue. And for me, when I was asked what would I do about it, I said I'd put a naval blockade across. That's what I do today, and say stops now. No one else is coming across, because it's like the analogy I used is if you're trying to solve a leak in your house. Let's say you've got a leak in the bathroom or the kitchen or whatever. Unless you plug the leak and then try and figure out where the problem is to fix it, you're never going to be able to fix the problem, because you're still just going to have rushing water coming in. You're not going to get to the point where you can even find the root of the problem and therefore solve it and stop it happening and create a major fix to stop it continuing to happen. You got to plug it first. And when we're talking about immigration, we're talking about illegal immigration. While there's hundreds of people coming across the channel every day, you're never going to solve the problem of the hundreds of thousands that are already here. It's a really simple analogy, a really simple equation. That's just not going to happen. So if you were genuinely trying to solve it, you would do something that put a hard stop on it happening today. And I was asked what I'd do about it. I said I'd put a naval blockade. And in my opinion, I'm a big believer in responsibility for actions. If someone tells you what's going to happen if you do something, if you then choose to do it and they do exactly what they said they were going to do, that then is on you. So, for example, if someone tries to start a fight in a pub and I say, if you stand up, I'm going to fight back, then they start and I fight back, they can't blame me for fighting back. So if we put a naval blockade across the English Channel and said that any boats or any attempts to break the blockade and get into the UK illegally, you will now be met and treated exactly the same as a Russian MiG would be over the North Sea. You'll be treated as a threat to the security of the nation and the people that we are elected to represent. If then people try and still get past the blockade, and people will argue and say, yeah, but what about the women and the children? There ain't a lot of them, guys. There ain't a lot of them coming across at all. It's military-age men. You've only got to look at the pictures, the videos. That emotive argument doesn't wash, because it's not the reality of the situation. If then a group of young men in a boat try and break the naval blockade, and whatever happens to them, that's on them. They knew the consequences of something, and they chose to do it anyway. That's what I would do. That would solve the problem of more people coming today. Then you can start the conversation about what you do with the people that are already here. At the moment, this is like trying to put a plaster on your leg hanging off. It's not going to solve the problem. It's still just going to continue. Because, as we spoke about, Rich, it's not meant to solve the problem, mate, is it? It's not meant to solve the problem.
No, it's not. It's not meant to solve the problem. The key thing you mentioned there is the fact these are not many women and children coming across. These are military-age men. Now, a lot of us will look at this and go back to your analogy of the leak in the bathroom. Is the fact that the UK is and the British and the West have caused leaks in other people's bathrooms for them to need to come over and use ours. But as you say, on top of that, these aren't very many women and children. These are military-age men, which we are seeing. So it's not as cut and dry as that. There is an element of that, of causing the problem elsewhere, thus, them coming over here, because we've gone and basically decimated, I say we, the UK government and the military arm, who know what pieces of the puzzle to move around, the chess pieces to move around, have decimated their lands for the reasons of this global agenda. There is that. But as you say, these are military fighting men, and I think what we're looking at is a kind of sleeper cell here in the UK, and I think that's quite evident. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of layers to this, and as most things, they are very, very, very complicated. When it comes to women and children, I think a discussion to have there of why they need to leave their country in the. I think we need to take it right back to the beginning to try and untangle it all. But as you say, stop the leak in the first place. But where are they coming from? Which countries are these coming from?
Well, that's something to look at, because people talk about the fleeing war and fleeing persecution. I completely concur and understand that, especially wars created by the West, by NATO, by US. But you're crossing, let's say hypothetically you're coming from a country in the Middle East. Let's say someone's coming from Syria, hypothetically, just to pick a simple example. How many countries across Europe have you crossed that are perfectly safe, where you're not going to face the same persecution? They're secular societies. Your religion of Islam, if that's what you follow, would be accepted and respected and protected by law. How many of those are you crossing to reach Calais to then take a very dangerous trip on a dinghy across the English Channel? You're crossing tens of them. You're crossing France, you're crossing Germany, you're crossing Belgium, you're crossing all of those countries. So the reason that people are coming to the UK is not necessarily because they're fleeing persecution. If we were bored, hypothetically, let's pick a simple one. If Ireland was a state that persecuted people and people were fleeing the border across to Northern Ireland to get into the UK, I would understand that argument. But the fact they're crossing so many countries before reaching the British Isles, they're coming here for a reason. And one is the massive benefit system that people can claim very quickly. And the other is the fact that over here, the tolerance to people it's gone too far. Now, I'm one of the most tolerant people you could meet. You believe what you want. You live your life however you want to live it. Just don't impose it on me or anybody else. But we're not in that culture here in Britain. In Britain, people feel terrified to say, actually, I stand for this. I don't think that's okay. Thank you. They don't say it. So therefore, people get away with stuff that they wouldn't get away with in other nations. And, we've spoken before about the attempts to destroy the West, to destroy the national identity and culture within the West, to create this kind of melting pot of nothingness, which diffuses any kind of resistance, any kind of pushback, any kind of I'm proud of my nation and I will fight for it to be the best version of itself, and I will fight for my town to be prosperous, and the people within all that kind of mentality is gone because people are just so beaten down. And immigration is not the only reason, of course. There's multiple reasons for that. But the fact that national identity has been diluted has changed the makeup of Britain. It's changed the demographics of the inner cities massively. I see that here in Derby from the difference from when I moved here, 10, 12 years ago. It's an incredibly different place to what it was then. And I find that incredibly sad. And I think, just to finish on this, Rich, sorry, because I appreciate I'm hogging. I think fundamentally it comes down to a simple word, which is respect. I think most of the problems that we have in the world come down to a lack of it. And I think if you're going into any nation, anywhere in the world, and this is where the racism argument aimed at me and this debate falls apart, because I would say every single country in the world should have the same philosophy, which is that we protect our own first, we protect our culture, whatever that culture is, and anyone that comes into this country, if they want to settle, if they want to raise a family here, if they want to live here, they have to embrace that culture. I don't believe that anyone should come from another culture and then try and impose theirs on where you've gone. And that goes the same the other way. I don't think a group of lads from here in the Midlands should move to Benidorm and try and turn it into, Brighton. I don't think that's right either.
Yep.
I think it has to work the same way across the board, because the simple question is, if you're fleeing a nation to come to a different one, you're fleeing it for a reason. So why then try and turn the nation that have been kind enough to take you in into the nation you have fled? You want to live in a different country because of a reason. So for me, I've spoken about this many times. I want to live in Croatia because I love the culture. I love the country. So therefore, if I move there, I'm going to get involved in it. I'm going to learn the language. My kids are going to learn the language. We're going to be part of the culture and society because that's why I want to live there. I'm not going to try and turn it into England. That's just ridiculous. And if that mentality was had by all immigrants of all countries going into any country across the world, including Brits going abroad, including Americans going to live abroad, then we'd all get on fine. But that's not how it is, unfortunately.
No, and that's when it's not designed to do that. And our next story will highlight why it's not designed to do that. Physical threat from Iran on people living in the UK has increased significantly. I mean, come on, the amount of gaslighting from this. And you can look at it on the political sense of, okay, the UK and the US and Israel and Iran. But what you're looking at here is you've taken what could be a global war, and you've made it a civil war by bringing those of the Islamic faith over to this country. And as you say, imposing their beliefs on this country. And I mean, I'm same as you. Believe what you want, but also respect someone else's place of living. That's created what is essentially now what would have been a more separate and wide expanded war, an actual proxy civil war in the UK, and it's heating up. So then you get the likes of the Tommy Robinsons coming in and fostering that there as well. And most people do not distinguish between anyone in the Middle East, including someone from Iraq, someone from Iran, someone from Saudi Arabia. They don't. And that's not because people are just horrible. It's just the way it gets reported over here. They don't distinguish these kind of different cultures of many different levels and ways of interpretations of thinking about even the free Abrahamic faith. So the Intelligence Security Committee says there have been 15 Iran-backed murder or kidnap attempts on UK citizens since 2022 and August 2023. So that's fairly update, but they haven't added the new ones yet. And this is from yesterday. The threat of physical attacks by Iran on people living in the UK has increased significantly since 2022, according to a new report by Parliament's intelligence watchdog. I would just say basically it's gaslighting. Iran poses a wide-ranging, persistent and unpredictable threat to the UK, according to the Intelligence Security Committee. It also said that Iran's intelligence services were willing and able, often through third-party agencies like the UK government, to attempt assassination within the UK and kidnap from the UK. So they're obviously fostering this. We've got to go over there. They're going to come here and kill us all anyway, so we better go over there and do it first. That's part of it. But really, on a level of town to town, village to village basis, that's setting up anyone of the British, anyone who's British or Christian, against those of the Islamic faith or Turkish or Iranian or even Pakistani, because most people don't differentiate that much. So it's creating these false collisions and wars within our grounds, and that's quite obvious to set us up for a civil war here when the time is right and push the button on that, and also for us to have an excuse to go and take out Iran so the Greater Israel Project can go on. So you can see these things playing. So why these guys come over in these dinghies, and we call them sleeper cells, that's a very viable question to be discussed. Whether it's true or not, let's hope it's not, but it is a viable question. So you take something that has validity to it and is true, and you gaslight it. You just send it to the moon, and then people will fight over it. So that's why you have these Britain First guys. The ones at the very top will understand, actually, if you really look at them, who do they all support? Israel, every time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what's really key is there plans, and has there been plans over the years for from the Iranian personnel to try and assassinate people here in Britain? Yeah. But you really think there hasn't been Israeli involvement, British involvement, American involvement in assassinating people across the world? It's commonly known. How many times did the Israelis try and assassinate Yasser Arafat? You know, they've assassinated countless Iranian nuclear scientists. And the US assassinated that general a few years ago, which led to a bit of tit for tat. The UK have assassinated tens of people over the years, whether they be people who are starting resistance movements to the British Empire in places like India and other countries. This sort of stuff has happened for millennia, and all these countries all do it. I'm not saying it's right, it's not. But you can't accuse the other side of something that you do. It's just, it's mad. But this is where, again, this problem that, you know, the British and the British Empire and NATO and the Americans, we're this moral bastion of superiority, and we only do this to bad people, whereas they're coming to try and do it to you. It's like, well, I'm not sure they are. I'm not sure they are. I'm not sure if you're sat on Thursday night watching Love Island, then an Iranian special forces officer is going to come through your front door. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I'm not going to lie. But again, like you say, mate, it's just trying to manufacture this consent, because I always think that they always go a little bit too far to start with to see where they can get, and then they come back and they go again, and they see they're almost like a test run. They see where their weaknesses are. They see where they have to do some work, where they have to manipulate a bit of consent, or where they have to plug some leaks and some gaps. And this little initial tit for tat between Israel and Iran, I think that was exactly that. And it's highlighted where there's some gaps. So one of them, a massive one, is there's no appetite for war with Iran in the West. There's none. So they've got to manufacture it. Stories like this, the fatter being put out against Donald Trump and Netanyahu, if then something happened to one of them, geez, that would manufacture some consent among many. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of false flag and Iran are blamed or manipulated to believe it was them. All these things are possible because they have to try and manufacture and manipulate this consent. So all bets are off, really, mate. I mean, every morning when you get up and look at the news, I think we're at the point now where I don't think there's a story I could read that would shock me anymore.
Nope, not at all. And I'm just looking this up because we mentioned this yesterday. So Tisha B'Av is the day in 2019 that Jeffrey Epstein allegedly died. So it's the day of mourning for those of the Messianic Jewish faith. What are the chances? And the minute ticking over into that just happens to be missing. So this year, it's on the Saturday the 2nd of August into Sunday the 3rd. Right. So just keep an eye on that, because if there's a false flag that benefits Israel, I would hazard a guess that would be the day that they'd choose.
What day was that? Sorry, just to repeat that for people.
So that was evening of Saturday the 2nd of August. Into Sunday the 3rd, so 2nd to the 3rd, over that 24-hour period. So it's always ticking over. So why that minute's missing in that video is crucially important. It has a symbolic message. Because in 2000, that date changes, Tisha B'Av, by the way, within a month. So they changed the dates around. So in 2019, it was the 10th into the 11th. So it tipped into that day. And on the 10th, Jeffrey Epstein apparently killed himself.
Okay, that makes me nervous. I'm on a flight on the 3rd, but I won't tell you where. I won't tell you which one. There's plenty. I could be on any of them. Anyway, right. Thanks for your time, Rich, mate. I'll be back with you guys this afternoon for Trending in the Afternoon at 2 p.m. Until then, we'll speak to you in a bit. Enjoy your Friday morning. Enjoy the sunshine. Whatever the amber warning says, ignore it. And just be sensible and enjoy some time out in the sun with your family. We'll speak to you later. Bye.